So there's this leading edge, like raw vulnerability that's very beautiful, but very scary in the sense of just the aliveness of it, the energy, and I guess the raw possibility of every moment. So there's a lot of processing going on. I rented this cabin for a few days, and I notice if I just stay right with this leading edge and process through, it seems to clear. And so I guess that's kind of my question. Like you speak about moving through the world. Some things you get what you want, sometimes you don't. But even more so, the internal kind of way in which you move through those experiences. Like, if you could just talk about that. Like, is it I don't want to call it a strategy, but there seems to be like, oh, if I touch this place through every experience, whatever happens is going to happen. However, it's sort of more authentic.
Touch which place?
Right. I don't know. It's not really a place, right? I don't know. Just like really communicate from where you're standing,
No, I don't know what you mean, really.
Okay. Yeah.
Who's the one that's aware of communicating from a different place? I'm not talking about an experience, I'm talking about that one that stands in the middle of stuff. So the one that's aware of communicating from a different place is the same person that's aware as the one that's communicating from a contracted place. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, got you.
Like, who's aware of communicating from a different place? Who's watching that? And I don't mean that as like you are the witness. I mean as that one that thinks it knows that it's communicating from a different place is just a thought that passes through and will die when the brain dies and is of no relevance.
Yes, exactly. Right. That's beautiful. Right. So the dance is what I'm speaking of now, of that unwinding or that realization that this whole thing is a product of the food body. And yet, there's that...
Which whole thing's a product of the food body?
Taste, touch, sound, sight.
Yeah. Thinking, yep.
Yeah, thinking. Exactly, thinking. Yeah. Right. There just seems to be more air between the thoughts and...
But freedom's not found between the air and the thoughts. Freedom is what's always there. What you're trying to describe is when you're not there, and then somebody comes back and then tries to go back to that experience. So basically, what waking up is, or liberation is a dissolving of the person that's experiencing life. And that's what all your awakening experiences has been, is when you aren't there anymore. But you can't possibly know that. Who is it that's watching the going between the two different places? That one that's watching them is still a lie. That one that knows the liberation of Lee is still a lie.
Yeah.
That's still thoughts. That's still a personal energy that thinks it knows something, and it feels like that person sits in a specific place, and watches this experience and changes emotions and feelings and ideas about itself, but it's generally sitting in the same place. But it's when that person moves out of the way that these awakening experiences happen. Then that person comes back and puts it into a context of my life in time, and it completely misreads what's happening and what the awakening actually is. The awakening is when you dissolve into things. So when you're doing something you love is when you dissolve into things, normally.
Right. Right.
So when
Yeah.
you're falling in love, or when you're laughing, or when you're whatever tickles you listening to music, you disappears, and that's why these things become an addiction, because the person's always looking for its absence, but the person thinks what it's looking for is an experience for the person.
In that absence.
It thinks that awakening is an experience for the person. It thinks that it's connecting, or connecting with a deeper place, or moving more towards this awakening. It always puts it back into relationship of somebody moving through time, but the somebody moving through time is what's always stood in between the experiencer and the experiencing, or seemingly divided those two things, the experiencer and the experienced. But there is no divide. That divide is a discomfort, and what suffering is. What you look for
Yeah.
is an immersion and disappearance of yourself. You can't possibly know that.
How is that authentically moved towards then, and not?
It's not authentically moved towards. You made up the word authentically, and you made up the word moves, and you're dreaming that there's somebody that exists in your head that's moving towards something in time, authentically. But you made up all the
Yes.
words. You're dreaming it. You've got an image of your head of somebody doing that. Your freedom is that aliveness in which that image appears in. It's nothing to do with that image that's moving in your head.
Right on. Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what will happen is the energy will shift from that narrow character that you imagine in your head to that boundless aliveness that's always been there when the body was 2, 4, 6, 8, even before the body was born. And that aliveness is nothing, and that's what the essence of everything is nothing and everything, because everything is nothing. You could call it the bridge, or you could just call it nothing and everything. It's the bridge between nothing and everything, or it just is nothing and everything. So it's nothing to do with that person that you're imagining waking through time or having an authentic awakening. It's there all the time, aliveness. That person's actually dissolving, and it can't recognize its own dissolving. Every story it makes up about awakening is just a story, which can be fun and can be shared for fun purposes, but eventually the energy will swap, and it will just be seen as a character playing out, as a functioning and for fun, and it's nothing to do
Yes.
with who you are. And it was not anything.
Yes.
Your freedom was never found in that character. Your freedom was always there in the background, but is now the foreground, or is now seen as everywhere, which it always was. It's just seemed to be divided by the person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the beautiful failure of the whole trying
Yeah.
game.
So nobody can authentically move towards it.
Yeah.
That's an imagining. You don't
Yeah.
exist in that imagination.
Yeah. I guess that covers some of the fear of lack of control.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because control was also imagination.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's clear now.
Even lack of control is imagination.
Yeah. Right on.
I love that saying, but it's so un-English for an English person to say it. Like if I say it, it sounds funny. Right on. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
works for an English person to say nice. I got that from
Nice?
America, yeah. Like Americans always go nice. But it works, an English person can say that, can go nice, that works. But right on, it doesn't work for us. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very true. Well, thank you so much. You know, it's
Thanks,
great
Lee.
to. Thank you.
Oh, it's lovely to talk to you again.
All right. Take care.
Bye.